We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner. My name is Greg Pflugar. We are going to have a discussion tonight. By the way, can people see me and hear me? Are we okay right now? I mean, I know I'm not, it's not very good to look at me. It's not very good to hear me. Okay, the architect says yes. We've been having problems. It's YouTube. So I don't know. We tried it about 10 minutes ago. It did not work. I tried it again. Now YouTube has been tripping. So what we're just gonna, again, I'm sure we are being compromised here. Cloak and dagger. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you love everything in college football, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and your friends. If you want to support this rebel outpost, the home for the college football sickos, with a donation, help us keep the lights on and grow the channel. Hit that $sign where you make your comment, and I'll get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome on in, everybody, into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls. I was going to do some singing tonight, possibly. I was going to sing, tomorrow, I love ya tomorrow. But, the voice is a little worse than it usually is. So I figured I'd give you all a break. Tonight, we are going to do two things. Only two things. Both of them very important. One, this is Wednesday, so we are going to make our picks against the spread. Now, it is very interesting. This is Wednesday, October 15th in 2025. This is the first time ever since we begun this most unpopular national college football YouTube channel in the country. This is the first time ever that I'm above 500 after week one. Number one, that's how much of a loser I have been. The re-elected mayor of Loserville City, week after week, month after month, year after year. But in 2025, here in October, well, 52-47. You all are 47-52. The Buckshot Kid. Your voice is a little worse. I didn't think it could get even worse than normal. Oh yeah, it can get a lot worse, my friend. The Buckshot Kid. Let's go. Greg the Gold. Look, we're doing 11 games. We are doing 11 games. And again, last week I went 10-3. And you all went 9-4. So that we're going to do that first. But then we are going to sit around and have a discussion. We're going to have some real talk. We're going to have some real talk around what may or may not happen tomorrow. I do not know what's going to happen tomorrow, but there is a Big Ten presidential meeting. And I have seen all the discussions on X. We've had the discussion here on this channel. And I see a lot of comments already in the chat room. Christopher Hooter, Greg, I told you there was more to the story than just money. Everyone is not comfortable with all this third-party money. They all want the third-party money. Most of them want the third-party money. USC's trying to jam your airways. IMBM, Big Ten University, can't fundraise $100 million in 5 years, and there's something up. No need for private equity. Again, this is not a private equity situation. Number two, yes, Big Ten universities can raise $100 million. Again, I think a lot of people are leaving out three big things on this. I get that people are focused on the cash, the influx, because there are some Big Ten universities that need it desperately. There are schools in every conference that would like to have it. But there are bigger things at stake here than just the cash. Number one, it's about Well, I had a little, right before I came on live, I had a little conversation with John Wilner, the Mercury News writer on X here. And he's talking about how Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State, USC, they're fine. They don't need to do this deal. They don't need to do this deal. There are other people questioning, why are Ohio State Buckeyes favoring this deal? Why do they want this deal? They don't need $190 million. They can get that from somewhere else. Well, it is interesting, isn't it? Because for 4 years on this show, I've been seeing comments pretty much every time I do a live show. Great. Why is Minnesota making as much money as Michigan? How can that be great? Why, you Minnesota Golden Gophers, you should be cut away from the Big Ten. You leopards. Something to that effect. And here we are. Here is a proposal that for year in and year out, the Buckeyes, the Michigan, the Nittany Lions, and yes, the USC Trojans would get more than the other Big Ten universities in media money payouts, and yet people are still bitching and moaning. So that ain't really the motivation, is it? For people complaining about the Big Ten. In other words, what is in it for Ohio? What is in it for Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, and USC, and maybe a couple other biggest brands in the Big Ten? Well, unequal revenue sharing. You're going to have the Big Ten goes back to media negotiations in 2029. It goes back again probably in 2035 or 36. The Big Ten is going to make a whopping a lot of money, and the schools that are at the top of the pyramid are going to make incredible money. That's what's in it for them. Because no matter how we talk about this, and by the way, I do not know if I am for this deal. There's no way, I do not know if I'm for this deal. Because of one big elephant that is in the room that hardly anybody's talking about. Because people are focused on the cash, and it's private equity, it's not private equity. And why would the Buckeyes do this? And why should USC, yada, yada. There's a big elephant in the room, and no one wants to talk about it. And that's Big Ten Enterprises. So, if you don't, look, guys and gals, that ain't happening, Jansen Roberts. That ain't happening. So that can be, you're not going to piss off the current, Big Ten allows USC to play Notre Dame on Netflix, and USC's a yes on the vote. Well, then USC's not going to be a yes on the vote. And we'll continue on as is. You're not going to piss off Fox, CBS, and NBC just to get a yes vote from USC. You don't want to cut your trust with your media partners. That is an absolute no-go. Absolute no-go. Let Netflix negotiate with NBC, CBS, and Fox. Let Netflix write a big old check to those three media companies. So that ain't happening. Okay, but what I'm trying to say is, we're having a discussion tonight. What I'm trying to say is the following. If the grant of rights does not get extended to 2046 out of this deal, that's fine. That's cool, brother. That's cool, sister. Let's say there's no deal. I might be fine with that. I might favor that because of the Big Ten enterprise. We'll get into that later. But without no deal, guess what? Those evil, horrible leopards, those Minnesota Golden Gophers are going to be making the same amount of money when it comes to media payouts than the Buckeyes, Michigan, Nittany Lions, and USC Trojans until 2036. That's just the way it is. Without you're not going to get unequal revenue sharing. You don't want that, okay? You don't want the uneven stakes in the conference that would favor the bigger brand schools, okay? Because you don't want to extend the grant of rights to 2046, okay? Then you don't get the unequal revenue sharing and you don't get the higher percentage of the stakes, and will continue on as for the next 10 years. And then in 2036, if the biggest, look, and they deserve to have the freedom, USC deserves to have the freedom to make their decision. Michigan deserves to have the freedom to make their decision. The Ohio State Buckeyes have the freedom to make their own decision. Everybody does. If they want to join together with the top brands of the SEC and go merrily on their way, they have that right, in my opinion. And that right should not be taken away. And they can go off in 2036. Or they can go off a little bit before 2036. They can do that. They can do what Florida State and Clemson did. Michigan, Ohio State, USC, Penn State, whatever other team you want to throw in there. They have every right to take the Big Ten to court and battle against that grant of rights. Because the Big Ten owns the Big Ten universities' media rights to 2036. But until all that happens, until we do a live show, breaking news, that the Michigan Wolverines, who have been the tip of the spear when it comes to Big Ten universities, Michigan, who has not wanted to play anybody but large research, and I don't think they've changed. I think a lot of people are misconstruing Michigan's motives here, but we're going to play this out. Until I come up here and do breaking news and people are taking the Big Ten to court, the grant of rights goes to 2036. And if there is not a quid pro quo, if there's not unequal revenue sharing, unequal stakes for an extended GORE, then there's no deal. We're not going to get an extended GORE. The GORE is going to stay to 2036. Okay, that looks like it might make Michigan happy and USC happy and maybe a few other schools happy. And then we're not going to have unequal revenue sharing. You're not going to get unequal revenue sharing. You're not going to get unequal stakes. You're not even going to have a Big Ten enterprises if this deal doesn't happen. The media deal runs to 2029 and 30, not to 2036. So let's have this discussion because a lot of people are confusing this. The Big Ten is not the ACC. The Big Ten is not the Pac-12. The Big Ten is not the Big 12. The Big Ten is the Big Ten. Right or wrong, bad or good, and most of the PATC family believes it's bad and evil. The grant of rights is a separate document in the Big Ten. The current media contract goes to 29 and 30. There's going to be a new Big Ten media contract in 2029 and 30. All the schools are going to be part of the conference in 29 and 30. The Big Ten owns the Big Ten universities and media rights, and they're going to negotiate on that. The grant of rights, the ownership of those media rights does not end in 2029 and 30. It goes to 2036. So again, when people are figuring out this is terrible, why would the Buckeyes in Michigan and US, why would they do this? Why would they do this? Well, if you sit there with the calculator and if we figured out how much more they were going to get in stakes in the Big Ten enterprises and how much more money they were going to get in the unequal media revenue sharing, and you put that out for 20 years, maybe they're going to make way more money in this deal than they would if they did not make the deal. Or maybe they won't. Maybe they won't because this Big Ten enterprises is fraudulent. And that is the elephant in the room. No one wants to talk about it because no one really knows anything about it. The Big Ten Conference, and they're not the only conference, but they keep talking about how they need to modernize the conference. They need to be able to create revenue streams. It is undervalued. They need to make more money. They think they can make more money. Let me give you a great example of this. Christopher Hooter, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Christopher Hooter, thank you for the $5 holla. Greg, USC empowered the Big 14 to essentially match Oklahoma and Texas to SC 14. That is priceless. If unequal revenue share is inevitable, USC must be in the top tier. All right, sure. USC will probably get to the top tier. But they're going to have to earn it, in my opinion. And I think they would earn it, in my opinion. Remember, these tiers are not permanent. These tiers are not, whatever, if this deal happens, and it's very questionable right now as we sit here and we're having a discussion tonight on it, it's not permanent. You're going to move up in the tier, you're going to move down in the tier, depending on how you perform, and USC is probably going to move up to the top tier. My whole point is you got to earn it, except for this one exception. I will make one exception. I am willing. Thank you, Christopher Hooter. Thank you so much for your super chat, for your generosity. I will make one exception. As the representative of the University of Minnesota, as the representative of the University of Minnesota. And don't ask me how I could be a representative of the University of Minnesota when I could not qualify to become a student of the University of Minnesota, as my grades and SAT score are the evidence that I could not get to the but whatever, forget about that. That was years ago, decades ago. As the true representative of the University of Minnesota, I will make this offer to the USC Trojans. You can have top tier. You can have top tier with the Buckeyes, the Wolverines, and the Nittany Lions. This is what I am calling the Moen Compromise. Moen from the from College Football Mafia show. This was his, well, he believes that USC should get a top tier anyways, but he had to listen to me bitch and complain. So, this is the Moen Compromise. If USC can get Notre Dame into the conference, Notre Dame, of course, would be top tier because they're already in the Big Ten media contract that's raising everybody's boats. If USC comes in at top tier, if Notre Dame comes in the conference, USC, you can get top tier day one. So there it is. That's my offer. Other than that, it ain't happening, brother. It doesn't work for me, brother. But USC is going to get to the top tier regardless. Because this is not permanent, in my opinion. But yes, the elephant in the room is the Big Ten enterprises. There's not a whole lot of discussion on it because nobody really has any detail on it. Tony Petitti says the conference needs to modernize. It needs to create more value, bigger revenue streams, and they're leaving money on the table. They need to be able to get all the power of negotiations into this for-profit Big Ten enterprises. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about here. The Southeastern Conference. They are undervalued in many, many ways, and they know it. People have been talking about how the ratings this year, the SEC ratings are so high, and yeah, they are. They're always high, and they're really high this year. Great, fantastic. And the Southeastern Conference is going to make more money. They're going to go to 9 conference games. They're going to go past the Big Ten when it comes to total money and all that. And then the Big Ten is going to go past the Southeastern Conference with their new deal in 2029. And the Southeastern Conference negotiates in 2034. So they're 2 thoroughbreds going down the stretch run. One horse goes out and nose ahead, the other horse, but they're 2 incredibly wealthy conferences that are undervalued. And the Southeastern Conference media contract is completely undervalued. And the Southeastern Conference does not, it squeezes out, the way they're structured, being a Disney, ABC, ESPN, the way they are structured, where you don't even really have to flip the channels, you know that they're going to get higher viewership. But their mechanism, the Southeastern Conference mechanism on negotiations of their media contracts, it's not good. And they know it. The reporters know. Everybody knows it. Now, nobody wants to raise up their hand and ask Greg Sankey about it. But then again, I have no strings attached to making sure I maintain access to Greg Sankey or Silent Tony. But the Southeastern Conference does not get bidding wars. They're so tied in with ESPN that they just don't get what they should be getting. And they know that. And at some point, Greg Sankey and those presidents are going to want to modernize their conference. And that is what the Big Ten schools are interested in. That is what they've agreed upon. And by the way, we got to make something clear here. And I probably screwed up at the beginning of the program, but that's fine. One thing we got to make clear is Tony Petitti did say in public that we may or may not do this capital investment deal. But even without that, they're still going to have to modernize the conference. There still might be this Big Ten enterprises. And what's the difference between a Big Ten enterprises in this deal and a Big Ten enterprises that doesn't have this deal? I do not know the answer to that question. because we don't even know what the Big Ten enterprises even compromises. We've got a little bit of information. We know there could be about 10 members, according to a Ross Dellinger report. We know there's going to be a CEO. We know that this Big Ten Enterprises is going to have, for now, is going to have 20 stakes in it. One of them being USC investment, the other being the Big Ten Conference, and the other 18 being the other 18 universities, with each a little bit of a different percentage stake. There's going to be different tiers on that. Who's going to be on this board? What type of expertise does this board have? We believe that the board is going to get paid for by this deal. In other words, part of the USC investment money is going to go to the board and how they're going to work. That's like the engine of it. Now, what's the engine of it if you don't get the investment? Does that mean that money now comes out of Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Purdue, Indiana, Illinois, Maryland, Michigan State, UCLA, Oregon, Washington? Does it come out of everybody's money to provide the engine of the Big Ten enterprises instead of the USC investment fund? I don't know. We don't know. This deal, in my opinion, and I've said it for a long time, before we even know it was a public capital investment and blah, 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 this deal always had to be more than just the cash. It can't be just about the cash, because there's different ways to get cash. We all know that these universities can figure out a way to get cash. It does hurt. I mean, even, either way. But in this deal, if you're going to get the cash, what is in this deal that is going to widen or increase the current and future revenue streams of the conference? What is that magical mixture? What is it? And we don't really have an answer for that. And that is why I cannot sit here tonight and say I'm for the deal. But I also can't sit here and go, well, what's in it for Ohio State and Michigan? And there's a lot, there's a lot in it for them. There is. But and when we get back to this, after we make our picks against the spread, I do want to take a little bit of time and talk about Michigan and USC. What could be going on there? What I don't, and I'm going to really express what I don't think is going on there. I'm more assured, after talking with everybody for the last 3 days, I'm more assured of Michigan's motivations. USC, I really don't know what's going on there, to be honest. I really don't know what's going on there, to be honest. You can understand the motivations for pretty much every Big Ten university, except for maybe 4 or 5 of them. But 14 of them, 13 of them, you can understand the motivation for willing to give up a little bit with unequal revenue sharing, for them to be able to give up a little bit on unequal stakes in the Big Ten enterprises. You can understand while many of those Big Ten universities would say, oh yes, in the 2029, 2030 media rights negotiations, we're okay with playing more of those Friday games. You want to play Thursday games? We'll play more Thursday games. You want to bring on a big streaming giant as part of the Big Ten media partners? We're willing to put our games on the streaming platforms if we get an extension of the grant of rights to 2046. You can understand all that. You can understand their motivation and all that. So we're going to get back into this. We are going to open up the phone lines. I want to hear your voices. Tomorrow is a Big Ten presidential meeting. Is it going to be a defining moment? Is it going to be a moment in which they're going to roughly plan for a vote in the future? Or is it a moment in which they completely scrap it? They say we're not going to be, all of us are not going to be on board, so we're not going to do it. And then are they going to try to create some Big Ten enterprises even without the UC investment fund? If this thing all goes down, if this thing all goes belly up, if it all goes pear-shaped, then we go as is into 2036. I'm going to say this though, and I did not think I was going to say this. But if this thing goes pear-shaped, and maybe it should go pear-shaped, like I say, I don't know if I'm for this deal because I don't know what this Big Ten enterprise is all about. But if this thing all goes pear-shaped and it doesn't happen, even though the vast majority of the Big Ten universities are for this deal, the benefits and the risks, they're for this deal. And it sounds like Ohio State is for this deal. In Oregon, and Washington, and Michigan State, and Indiana, Purdue, Minnesota, a lot of these schools are for this deal. But if it doesn't happen, that means that there are schools in the Big Ten. There may be this feeling in the Big Ten that some schools are just not willing to extend that grant of rights. And then you've got to ask the question, if that's the case, then why would the Big Ten expand again? Why would 13, 14, 15 of those universities want to bring in another member to grow the conference, to bring more value to the conference? Because remember here, the plan for the Big Ten was to grow this sucker even more, to get the conference even more valued, to bring on international deals, more research collaboration. All that stuff has been percolating. That's why they keep growing the channel, the conference, and it has worked. The conference is more valuable than ever. Expansion has worked. The Big Ten network has worked. All these things have worked. That's why there's a lot of forces out there that want to rip apart the Big Ten. This stuff has worked. This was the plan when they brought in USC in Oregon and Washington. And when they brought these schools in, it wasn't about, 2036, this conference is over. The idea was to bring them in to grow more value, to bring in more schools. But why would a Big Ten, why would 13, 14, 15 of these universities want to bring in another big time school, which they want to do, but why would they do that if they fear that the gore is not going to get extended beyond 2036? There may be some fear there. We don't know. Right? So we'll get it. We'll get back into it. Okay, we're going to make our picks against the spread. We are going to make our picks against the spread. Christopher Hooter, thank you for another super chat. I appreciate it. Prediction, Big Ten punts and tables. It's not private equity, Christopher. I don't know why you keep naming it that. I love you, man, but it's not even a private equity firm. Big Ten punts and tables the Capital Investment Fund for another day. That could very well happen. Very well could happen. They already this deal went over the top on the 3 private equity firm deals. Are you guys having a hard time with you guys still can hear me and see me, or are we having problems? Are we okay with the video audio? If the Big Ten, thank you, Morris Simmons, for coming on in. If the Big Ten doesn't sign on this deal, the Super League will happen way more money. Let me do you guys honestly, when you talk Super League, what Super League are you talking about? If you're talking about a Super League of 24 to 28 schools, 32 schools, yeah, that could happen, Morris, and we've always said that here at Peek Around the Corner, that could happen. A Super League of 70 schools, 48 to 70 schools, that ain't gonna happen. Project Rudy, that ain't gonna happen. That ain't gonna happen, Morris Simmons, and I'll tell you why that's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. I'll tell you why. The Big Ten has got 18 schools. 10 of those schools have been with each other for 100 and more than 100 years. And when you get to be an 18-team conference, to get everybody on board with decisions, it becomes very difficult. That's why the bigger you get, the more chances of a fracture. Realignment never sleeps. To get 48 schools on board when it comes to how much money can come in from the capital fund or whatever you're going to fund it with. 48 schools deciding on how to split up the divisions, how to schedule, who gets what. The Rudy Project and this are basic. There's a lot of similarities. Different tiers of payouts. It's the same, but it's bigger. And if the Buckeyes in Michigan and Penn State and USC do not want to do it in a Big Ten structure, they're not going to want to do it in a 48-team structure. Why would there is no logical, I've been saying this, there's no logical sense, guys. There's none. Why would they do this with no disrespect, but why would they do this with schools? No, the money, forget, now suddenly money is the important thing. It's unbelievable. I don't know, guys. Look, is money important or not? Because when we're talking about the Big Ten deal, most people are like, well, the money, they don't really need it. Oh, wait, 48 schools? Wait, it's the money. Michigan is not going to do a 48-team Super League to use their value for, if they're not going to do it with an 18 Big Ten conference. It just ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. Okay, let's make our picks. We are going to go back to this. Well, that's a good point. Yes, money. Well, yeah, it's money and exposure and all that thing. Yep. And why would Oklahoma and why would the Southeastern Conference forget about the Big Ten? Push away the Big Ten. Forget about the Big Ten. Talk about the SEC. We talked about, they're undervalued. They don't get the money that they should be getting. Right? Look, everyone's telling me, look at the ratings, Greg. I get DMs every day. Look at the ratings, Greg. Look at the ratings, Greg. And I say, yeah, they're really high. You know what? The Southeastern Conference ratings have been really high for 15 years. It's even higher this year. Why would Southeastern Conference schools go into a 48-team Super League? There were reporters today saying, why would the Southeastern Conference want to bind themselves up with the Big Ten? It's like, why would the Big 12? Why would the Big 12 get into an arrangement with the American Conference? Why would you bundle up your content with their content? You won't. Why would the Southeastern Conference bundle up their content with the Big Ten? Now, and to speak of, why would the Southeastern Conference bundle up their content with 48 schools? It makes no sense, in my strongly held opinion. Top tier Super League money is 200. That's just a number on a piece of paper. That's money on a piece of paper, Numbskull News. Who says that? By the way, that Rudy project was billions of dollars of private equity money. Billions of dollars. They were going to get a big stake in that. Big stake. Oh, that's a brilliant idea. But suddenly, a public capital investment fund I don't think the Southeastern Conference and the Big Ten. Okay, Steve McNeely says picks, Greg. Picks. Okay, let's do the picks. All right, we're having a conversation. All right, let's go to who wants to go first. Who's going first? There was no offer. There was a lot of talk. Supposedly all this private equity money was going to come in, billions of dollars. And the private equity was going to get a big stake in it. We don't know what the percentage of the stake was. You want to go first? All right, you guys go first. Let's do this thing. All right. We begin with Ole Miss and Georgia. All right, let's get through this. Focus, make these picks, and then we're going to open up the phone line. You can all yell at me for being so rude to everybody and being wrong about how the Project Rudy would be beautiful for everything, and it would be unicorn and rainbows and bunny rabbits. Give me a call, 763-260-1333, after we make these most important selections. Does Georgia cover the -7.5 point spread versus Ole Miss? Oh boy. This was a tough one for me. I got to tell you. If you want Georgia, you say yes. If you want the 7.5 points, you vote no. You take Ole Miss. Kenneth Maynor laying his focus on interviewing in Gainesville. Georgia wins. That reminds me that there's a report out there that the big money perch, the people on the money perch in Gainesville have already met They're lining up the money. Once Billy Napier loses another game, Billy Napier is gone. Gone, gone, gone. 5 more seconds on the vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wow. 64% says no. Okay, now that surprises me. That surprises me. And now I got the hiccups. I got the hiccups really bad. I apologize. Tennessee at Alabama. Does Alabama cover the minus 9.5 point spread versus Tennessee? The voting begins now. If you want Alabama, you're going to vote yes and give 9.5. If you want Tennessee in the 9.5 points, you vote no. Don Scruggs is saying, man, y'all be crazy in the head. The PATC community did not take Georgia to cover. Holy smokes. Don Scruggs, Bama is always overrated. Morris Simmons, I've seen on the Gators vlogs that they have the money to change the head coach. 5 more seconds on the vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bama. 68% says Bama is going to cover. All right, we've got a game here. We've got ourselves a game here. Does Vanderbilt is favored. Does Vanderbilt cover the minus 2.5 point spread versus LSU? If you want Vanderbilt, you vote yes and give 2.5. If you want to take LSU and get 2.5 points, you vote no. The voting begins now. Woo! We got a little bit of a... I did not expect this type of gap in the vote. 5 more seconds on the voting. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 62% says no. 62% says no. Did I get that right? Did 62% of you said no? I'm writing down the wrong team here. Hold on. All right. Here we go. USC Notre Dame. Notre Dame is favored by 9.5 points over the USC Trojans. Does Notre Dame cover the minus 9.5 point spread versus USC? If you want to take Notre Dame, you're going to vote yes and give 9.5. If you want USC, you're going to vote no to get 9.5. The voting begins now. The almighty Finn Norvell, next game Norvell loses, he's done. So almighty Finn, Mr. Seminole believes Norvell is in the same spot as Billy Napier. Very interesting. We've got another landslide here. We've got another big no vote. 5 more seconds on the vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 USC. The people want USC to cover. So far, you've got Ole Miss, Alabama, LSU, and USC. Utah versus BYU. The Holy War. Does Utah cover the -3.5 point spread on the road versus BYU? If you want to take the Utah Utes and give 3.5, you vote yes. If you want BYU and receive 3.5, you vote no. The voting begins now. Five more seconds on the vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 54% says no on Utah. The PATC community takes BYU in the Holy War. Last year, man, that finish was something else. This year, the game is in Provo. I think the winner of this game, unless Cincinnati says, don't forget about us. The winner of this Utah BYU game sets themselves up to be the main challenger of the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Louisville, Miami. Louisville and Miami. Does Miami cover the -13.5 point spread versus Louisville? If you want Miami and give 13.5, you're going to vote yes. If you want to take the Cardinals and receive 13.5 points, you vote no. The voting begins now. Five more seconds on the vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 66% takes Miami to cover. They're Hurricanes. Georgia Tech and Duke. Duke is at home, and they're favored by 1.5. Does Duke cover -1.5 point spread versus Georgia Tech? Vote yes if you want Duke and give 1.5. If you want the rambling wreck of Georgia Tech and 1.5, you vote no. The voting begins now. Ryan Willie, are you doing a Nebraska versus Minnesota watch party? I have not decided, Ryan Willie. If I did a Nebraska-Minnesota watch party, I believe I would not survive a Nebraska-Minnesota watch party. I don't think I would be alive by middle of the fourth quarter. So, if the PATC family has had enough of me and want to see me gone until we all meet up again in paradise, then maybe I should. Maybe I should do a watch party. 5 more seconds on the vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. No. 79% of you said no. You are all big on Georgia Tech. The PATC Einsteins are big on Georgia Tech. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. Texas A&M and Arkansas. Texas A&M and Arkansas. Does Texas A&M cover the minus 7.5 points versus Arkansas? If you want to take Texas A&M, you vote yes and you give 7.5 points. If you want to take the Razorbacks and receive 7.5, you vote no. The voting begins now. Five more seconds on the vote. We got another landslide. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 78% of you says yes. You're all big on Texas A&M. The PATC family believes in Georgia Tech and Texas A&M. What about Baylor at TCU? It's only a 2.5 point spread. Does TCU, Numbskull News, TCU Horned Frogs, does TCU cover the minus 2.5 point spread versus Baylor? If you want the Horned Frogs and give 2.5 points, you vote yes. If you want the Bears and receive 2.5 points, you vote now. No. The voting begins now. The almighty Finn. Elko should be coach of the year so far in the Southeastern Conference. Expedition Greg, we are 1 week away from Minnesota regaining the Florida Rosedale. Expedition Greg, are you on something or are you on something? The Minnesota Golden Gophers, my beloved Minnesota Golden Gophers, can't block. If Christopher Hooter, Kenneth Maynor, Jansen Roberts, Expedition Greg, and Nick Kelso were lined up against the Gophers tonight out there in Huntington Bank Stadium, you guys would put 25 pressures on my quarterback. The Gophers cannot block. It's excruciating to watch. They can't block. 5 more seconds on the vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The PATC community goes big on the TCU Horned Frogs. Monster on the TCU Horned Frogs. We got 2 more games to go. 2 more games to go. All right. Does Clemson cover the minus 9.5 point spread versus SMU? The Minnesota Golden Gophers starting right guard, who has played every game, started every game, played most of the snaps. I'm not going to say his name. We got him in the transfer portal. His PFF grade is 48 overall after 6 games. 48. 48. Tumasa could be at a right guard and be a 50 grade. Does Clemson cover the 9.5 point spread versus SMU? If you want Clemson to give 9.5 points, you vote yes. If you want SMU and get 9.5, you vote no. The voting begins now. 48 is horrifying. Horrifying. And that's a combination of pass protection and run. And by the way, we got a bunch of guys who are in their 50s. The Gophers' offensive line is the reason that I can't sleep at night. I can't sleep at night. 5 more seconds on the vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 78% of you said no. My gosh. You all got SMU bigly. Wow. Yeah, that is horrible, Opie. It is bad, guys. Purdue Boilermakers put 20 pressures on our quarterback. The Purdue Boilermakers dominated my beloved Golden Gophers on the line of scrimmage, both ways. Dominated. What do you think Nebraska's going to do? Last game. Missouri, Auburn. Let's go. Let's go. Does Missouri cover the minus 1.5 point spread on the road versus an embattled Hugh Freeze? If you vote yes, that means you want Missouri and you're willing to give 1.5. If you vote no, that means you want the Auburn Tigers and receive 1.5. The voting begins now. Five more seconds on the vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 67% of the PATC Einsteins took the Missouri Tigers. And again, going into this week, Greg the Gold, 52-47 against the spread. The PATC Einsteins, 47-52. You all took Ole Miss, Alabama, LSU, USC, BYU, Miami, Georgia Tech, Texas A&M, TCU, SMU, and Missouri. Greg the Gold. I'm going to go through this real quick, everybody. So this is going to be lightning speed. Ole Miss and Georgia again. I guess this is not going to be quick. Georgia. I got Georgia on my mind. Gunner Stockton, you're gonna drive me crazy. Kirby Smart is going to drive me crazy. This ball club is not running on all efficiencies. It's I got to take Ole Miss. I'm going to agree with the PATC Einsteins. I got to go Ole Miss. Georgia's going to win. Don and Wendy Scruggs, their cash, their stacks of cash in a vanilla envelope is going to find it into the referee's locker room at halftime, and suddenly you're going to see a change, and the Georgia Bulldogs are going to win the game, but they're going to come up short. They're going to come up short. Tennessee at Alabama. You must be from Tennessee because you are the only 10 I see, except I'm taking Alabama way over 10 points. I'm taking Alabama to cover this. It's an absolute lock. LSU Tigers, I can't do it again. I got fortunate on you guys last week. I got fortunate with that 8.5 point spread versus the South Carolina Gamecocks, that their offensive line is almost as bad as my beloved Golden Gophers. But Vanderbilt does not have that bad offensive line. Vanderbilt is going to put some points up, and I don't know if LSU can put some points up, so Vanderbilt is going to win this game. The Commodores are going to cover. They're going to win by more than a field goal. Vanderbilt wins. USC, Notre Dame. I think this is a lock. I think this is going to be a classic game. It's going to be a close game. It's going to go down to the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. The Trojans are going to cover. They're going to cover. This spread is absolutely ridiculous. The Trojans are going to cover. They might win. This is a coin flip game. Coin flip game. I'm taking the USC Trojans. Now, I'm pretty solid on this game here. I'm pretty solid on this game. Right? Christopher Hooter, Greg, you're a Bama homer now. Look, players and teams are allowed to get better during the season. Alabama has fully recovered from the debacle in Tallahassee. Yes, I'm very much impressed with this Alabama team. Utah at BYU. I really like this BYU team. I really like this BYU team. They had to go to 2 overtimes to cover that spread. They've won all their road games. They've won all their games. They're back at home. This is a war. BYU's getting 3.5 points. However, for the first time this year, and it happens to everybody, it happens to every freshman quarterback, especially true freshman quarterback, you're gonna have a bad game. And I got a feeling that the Holy War is going to be a bad game for Bear Bachmeier. Bad game. Bear Bachmeier is finally going to have a game where he's not going to be able to run for first down, move the chains. He's not going to get away with some of those passes. The Utah Utes defense wins this football game. Scooping a score, a pick 6. Utah wins and covers the 3.5 point spread. Louisville and Miami. Louisville at Miami. I think this is an absolute lock. The Hurricanes win this game by about 4 touchdowns. 4 of them. Louisville's going to a 2-quarterback rotation in this game. The Cardinals are slipping and sliding. The Hurricanes got over an emotional victory, and then they had a bye week. The Miami Hurricanes are all ready to roll against the Louisville Cardinals. Georgia Tech versus Duke. I'm going to zig while you guys zag on this game. I got the Duke Blue Devils. First of all, Duke is one of those teams that are getting better and better and better and better. Manny Diaz is doing a great job, of course. Head coach of Georgia Tech's doing an outstanding job. But I think Georgia Tech has got to have a hiccup here. And I think this is the game. I think this is the hiccup. I think this is the hiccup. I don't think they're going to be able to pull out their fourth quarter miracle on the Duke Blue Devils. I'm taking the Duke Blue Devils. I'm giving a 1.5 points. Texas A&M versus Arkansas. This is Bobby Petrino night. At home, Arkansas. I think the Razorbacks give up a great fight in this game. They lose, but they cover. I've got Arkansas. TCU Baylor. I've got TCU. I agree with the PATC Einsteins. I've got the TCU Horned Frogs. I do disagree here. I'm taking the Clemson Tigers against SMU. I'm willing to give 9.5 points. I've got the Clemson Tigers. Missouri at Auburn. You all know who I got. I got Missouri. They're my team. They're going to win this game on the road. They're on their way to being an 11th seed in the college football playoffs. So, we both got Ole Miss. We both got Alabama. I got Vanderbilt. You all got LSU. We both got USC. I got Utah. You all got BYU. We both got Miami. I've got Duke. You got Georgia Tech. I got Arkansas. You all got Texas A&M. We both got TCU. I've got Clemson. You got SMU. We both got Missouri. Thank you so much for participating in our picks against the spread for week 8. Again, 52 and 47, 47 and 52. We'll find out if I can be Greg the Gold for the 4th week in a row. 4th week in a row. And I think that is going to be a yes. Utah wins by touchdown. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps the algorithm. Never bet against Georgia. It helps the bank account. You're not blowing out BYU, Sean says. You're not blowing out BYU. Sean says BYU. The Fighting Feinbaums lose bigly to Bama. LSU wins. Vandy wins. Some disagreement. Gunnar Stockton is going to get sacked multiple times. My 4-year-old started barking and hollering. It must have been my singing. It must have been my singing that did that. Okay. All right, guys. Let's open it up here. Let's open this up. Let's open this up. We're going to go to the phone calls pretty soon here. We do have a gifted membership by the Buckeye Expedition Greg. Thank you so much, Expedition Greg. I very much appreciate it. Ryan Willie, the Evil Badger, received a gift membership. Ryan Willie, when you get a chance, please say thank you to Expedition Greg. I appreciate it. Both of you are knighted officially. Cloak and Dagger. College football. Cloak and Dagger. Thank you so very much. All right. So, let me just check something out here real quick. So let's get back into it. Let's have a discussion. I'm making sure that there are no breaking news on what we're about to talk about. It don't look like there is. Keep your head on a swivel. I do see there are people having issues with YouTube. We had issues at the beginning of the show. We had to bring everything down. We brought everything up. Hopefully it's all working for you. Okay, so before I get into USC and Michigan, because they are, as reported, seem to be the two holdouts on this, I want to talk generally. I want to talk still a little bit generally about this, what we know about this public capital investment from USC Investment. Again, I do not know if I'm for this. I might come out, if this gets announced that it's a done deal, if this gets done, I might be totally against it. In large part because of the Big Ten enterprises. If there isn't something in there that can sell me that it will work, then I'm not going to be for it, because the cash infusion it can't be about the cash infusion. This deal cannot be about the cash infusion. It can help grease the skids for the deal to happen. It can help generate this Big Ten enterprises, but it can't be just about the cash infusion. Or this is a no-go. And believe the University of Minnesota needs the cash. A lot of schools need the cash. A lot of Big Ten schools sponsor more sports than other schools and other conferences. We've got higher expenses. The rev share came in and it really blew out the budgets of a lot of schools. Finally trying to overcome COVID in the Big Ten. So this really has to be about more than the cash infusion. That's my opinion. When people talk about this on X, even the reporters, even people that I really respect, basically they're focused on the cash infusion. Why would Ohio State do this? Why would Michigan do this? Well, the answer is more money. If they believe they can get more money in 20 years doing this deal versus they don't do this deal, then they're going to do this deal. That's simply the bottom line. Because short term, the Buckeyes, Michigan, Penn State, they do not have a financial issue. If they believe this deal gets them more money, unequal revenue sharing, higher percentage of the stake in Big Ten enterprises, and they don't want to leave the Big Ten, they don't want to join some 24, 28 team Super League with Southeastern Conference teams. If they really don't want to do that, and that is something that Michigan has never wanted to do. Michigan didn't even want to bring Oklahoma in. Michigan would not even bring a Tennessee. If Tennessee wanted to get in the Big Ten, Michigan would be a no vote. So Michigan has never been motivated. Michigan is not a Super League institution. They don't want to play. They don't want to be a part of a Super League. But what Michigan doesn't want to do, the Board of Regents don't want to do, is they don't want to have this cash come in and then lose out money for the next so many years because UC Investments is getting 10% of the stake. I believe that is Michigan's issue. They don't want private equity. They're looking at this as a private equity deal. And this investment fund will get a stake in it for 15 years at least. So the question is, will Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, is their perception is in the next 20 years under this deal, will they make more money under this deal versus not being under this deal? That's where it all comes down to. Does this structure of the Big Ten enterprises, where you have unequal revenue, where you have unequal stakes in the Big Ten enterprise, would this lure a couple of more big-time programs to increase the total value of the conference? If it doesn't lure, if it doesn't get in some Southeastern Conference schools, then this is probably going to be a no-go. It has to be about 20 years. Do you believe in this or don't believe in it? Is it going to get us more money or less money? And the major elephant in the room is the Big Ten enterprises. And I don't know what that looks like. And nobody does. We've gotten so few details on the Big Ten enterprises. Now, again, Brett Yormark went down this road twice. He's probably going down a third road on this. Brett Yormark wants he wants a strategic partner. Brett Yormark wants to find a strategic partner. The Big Ten believes the creation of a Big Ten Enterprises is their strategic partner. But I don't know what it, I don't understand it. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm not saying it's a bad construct. I don't know what it is. Other than it's a 10-member board. It has the CEO. Okay, what else is there? And can you create a Big Ten Enterprises without the cash infusion? I think you can. Tony Petitti has alluded to it. But then again, who's going to fund that? Because we know the UC Investment Fund would fund that. That's why it's all connected. Okay, so before we get to your phone calls, Go Black 45, I appreciate you being a member, a new member once again. Go Black 45, LSU Tiger. You are officially knighted. College football, peek around the corner, cloak and dagger. Thank you so much, Go Black 45. And there's a lot of cloak and dagger stuff going on. There is a lot of people that do not want this deal to get done. Most of the Big Ten people want it to get done. They believe in it. They believe in this Big Ten enterprise, whatever this is. The vast majority want to get this done. They think, according to the last report that we saw, it would be silly. According to one source, it would be silly if we did not do this. But there are people outside, 99% of the people outside the Big Ten don't want to get this done. And they're firing every grenade over the fence and saying, why would the Buckeyes do this? Why? Right? And if the Big Ten does it, that means the other conferences, are probably going to have to do it. But my question is, if the Big Ten does this, and it's such a bad idea, why would the other conferences do it? I think the answer to that is because everybody acknowledges most of these programs are cash strapped, and it's harder to find the money than people lead on to. And number two, and most importantly, is everybody understands the next iteration of college football and college sports is that these conferences want a strategic partner. The SEC wants a strategic partner. They're talking to Goldman Sachs. You don't think SEC schools can get out and get more money and more? No, they want somebody with expertise, because this is no longer a regional conference. Back in the day, this is more like the NFL. And the NFL has strategic partnerships. The NFL is so built out with sponsorships all over the world. That's what the Southeastern Conference wants. These conferences are looking for a strategic partner. What do you think the Super League idea is all about? You got all this private equity money coming in. They're getting a stake. It's because these schools, a lot of schools want for all of us to get together because it would protect them, and they would get this strategic partnership. Everyone's looking for it. My question is, what is the Big Ten strategic partnership in this? This Big Ten Enterprises. We do not have the details. This thing could be a big bust, in my opinion. Only my opinion. I'm not worried about, I can be made not to worry about the cash. Like, I can be made not to worry about the 10% stake. The Big Ten's going to make a lot of money in the next media contract. They're going to have another media. I mean, the Big Ten's going to be just fine in that. But what does the Big Ten Enterprises do to increase that revenue? Not just the media contract, but the sponsorship deals. What can the Big Ten Enterprise do? Now, let me go to USC in Michigan. And then we're going to open up your phone lines. Michigan, I understand. They have an interim president. According to the last report, President Ono, Santa Ono, was basically the chair of this private capital, public capital, whatever, this investment, this Big Ten Enterprises. Santa Ono was the chair of this movement. So Michigan would be for it if he was still the president. But he's not. They have an interim president, and so the 8-member Board of Regents have the power. And they do not want Michigan to go to 2,046 grant of rights, but I think even more importantly, I think Michigan has a hard time believing this is best for the conference. Those 8 members. And I was going to put up the names of those 8 members. I was going to do all that stuff tonight. And I decided against it. Because I felt like if I did that, people were going to think I was, I don't know. I might end up agreeing with those 8 members. Because I don't know what the Big Ten Enterprises is all about. And maybe they want answers on the Big Ten Enterprise. I would. Maybe they already have that answer. Maybe they just, but I don't think Michigan's motive. I really don't think Michigan's motive is to say we want to make sure we have freedom after 2036. I really don't think that's Michigan's motive. Call me a schmuck. Call me naive. I don't think that's not how Michigan has operated. That is not Michigan. Michigan is extremely pro Big Ten. Massively pro Big Ten. Michigan and Wisconsin faction has only wanted schools to join the conference that are truly Big Ten institutional. I think Michigan's motive is they don't want this. They think this is a private equity deal, and even if it isn't, this investment fund gets a stake, and they're very, very uncomfortable with that. I believe that is Michigan's motive. USC, I don't know what's going on at USC. I don't know what's going on. I'm having more problem with USC. Who knows more or care more about marketing, Greg or Silent Tony? My money's on Petiti. My money's on Petiti as well. And I don't have any money. So that even's more evidence that your comment is correct. But still, I want to know what the Big Ten Enterprises is. Sorry, I don't know what this is. I'm not going to endorse this thing when I don't know what the hell this is. Yes, Big Ten Enterprises might be able to increase everything. The marketing, the sponsorships, the negotiations, the media negotiations, according to reports, will fall with the Big Ten. They might be brilliant. It might bring us more money. People, the Ohio State Buckeyes believe it. President Carter believes it. I just don't believe it yet because I don't know the details. I don't have the 200 pages that they're sending out to these presidents. USC, is it true that you are this? Could this be just a leverage ploy for you to get top tier money with Michigan and Penn State and Ohio State? You know, I think USC is a top tier program, top tier value. I do. And I think they would get there someday. Of course they would. The viewers, yes. I'm not anti-USC. Now I'm being called anti-USC. I'm the one that broke the story of USC going to the Big Ten. I wanted it to happen. I did all. Not going to go down that road, but I'm not anti-USC. But you know what? There's comments in here. There's comments in here that says, Greg, you want last night, Greg, you want USC to be a lesser member than Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State? It's not about being a lesser member. Not about being a lesser member. University of Minnesota is not a lesser member to anybody. Sorry. Sure, Minnesota is willing to have a less financial stake. Minnesota is willing to get a little bit less media money. Minnesota has bent over backwards to build the Big Ten Hockey Conference. Minnesota was the one that had to sacrifice and get out of the WCHA that brought us millions into the program. Minnesota is a one vote just like everybody else. University of Minnesota is not a lesser member. We built this thing. We started this thing. We are the charter school of this thing. We have made almost all the correct decisions to make this one of the top wealthiest conferences in the country. Minnesota is not a lesser member. USC is not a lesser member. But I remember this. I do remember this. When the Big Ten Network was built, University of Minnesota was completely for it. The Buckeyes were completely for it. Michigan was completely for it. Penn State was completely for it. While 95% of the people outside the Big Ten mocked the idea, just like they're mocking this thing. The Big Ten Network has been a brilliant creation. It has worked. Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, along with all the other Big Ten schools, did not take any Big Ten Network money for the first 5 to 6 years of the network, because the money that was coming to them had to go back to Fox because they were the sugar daddy to build the network. Why is that so important? Because those 5 or 6 years, other schools that did not have their third tier TV revenue, they were keeping that money. They were only making $1 million, $800,000, $1.2 million, whatever it was. But they were able to keep the money. They had local TV deals with their softball, whatever. There weren't conference networks. ESPN were not picking up 99% of that. Fox was not picking up 99% of that. That was barely any money, any revenue being created for those Olympic and women's sports. But they were bringing in money. Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, they were not bringing in money. They took all the arrows, they took all the shots, and guess what? the Big Ten Network worked. It worked. It worked. And if you go back in the time, you go ahead and Google it, 99% of the college football reporters, they picked the Big Ten apart because of the creation of the Big Ten Network. So USC, I love you. I love you. You're a brother from another mother. But you did not pay into the Big Ten Network. You did not take the risks. You did not sacrifice any money. You did none of that. Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State did. So that's why I think Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State should be starting at top tier, and USC should come right behind them. And then soon, USC will get to the top tier. I get it. Trojan fans are mad at me. A lot of them have already unsubscribed to me, just like Michigan people did when I said Michigan, that cheating thing. And then, look, everyone gets mad at me. They unsubscribe. Big 12 country unsubscribe. And I'm going to get a bunch more. When I picked on the Big Ten, when I called them soft twice in the last month, I get it. But I got to tell you how I feel, because this is a national college football YouTube channel. I tell you how I feel. You tell me how you feel. USC, I don't know what the problem is. I don't know what the problem is, honestly. I don't get it. You are going to make so much more money in this world, in this Big Ten world, than you would have staying in the Pac-12, and yet you pull this power play move. The Netflix story, I'm not going to get, I have some info. I'm not going to rip on USC for that, because I don't really think USC, I'm not a believer that USC, that is a separate issue. And I don't really know. I'm not sure what to believe on that. But this, so I'm willing to compromise. I'm willing to compromise. The architect, Greg, are you saying you would blow up the deal over SEC wanting a little bit more scratch? Is it possible that this could push the bigger brands away? If that's what it takes, well, then the bigger brands are already away. Just because USC didn't quite get as much money, then this thing's already done. That means that USC is not committed to the Big Ten after 2036. My question is, architect, is USC willing to walk away from the Big Ten because they did not get an extra $5 million or $10 million in the cash infusion? But I'm willing to compromise, the architect. I'm willing to compromise. It is Silent Tony's job to iron out the wrinkles. It's my job to give my opinion on it. Sometimes it's my job to give you the peek around the corner. Obviously, I do not have this in this story. I come down hard on Big 12. I come hard on ACC. I come down hard. I've come down hard in the Southeastern Conference. I've come down hard in the Big Ten twice in the last 3 weeks. I've come down hard on my Golden Gophers. They can't block anybody. But I'm willing to compromise. I'm willing to compromise. I'm willing to compromise. If Notre Dame joins the conference, USC, you get top tier, along with Penn State, Ohio State, and Notre Dame, the Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame, USC, you get top tier. Or if there are 2 more expansion programs that come on in, let's say it's Miami or Georgia Tech or whatever, and there's a deal made in which a little bit of their cash infusion money that they would get, or a little bit of percentage of their stake, whatever, elevates USC to top tier, all right, we can make that work as well. But right away, Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State have become great stewards of this conference. Penn State for over 30 years. Ohio State and Michigan over 100 years. So, USC doesn't do compromise. Well, then USC's in a whole lot of bleep. I'm going to tell you guys something. USC needed the Big Ten more than the Big Ten needed USC. I know that's going to hurt some feelings out there. That's just the way it is. You've been in the conference for how long? And you're already pushing this power play. We'll find out tomorrow. We are going to find out tomorrow. There are 40 members of the USC Board of Trustees. 40 members. They have an interim president. Is it really all about making sure from day one they get as much money as Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State? Is it really about that? Or is it that they're just against this type of financial arrangement? Is it because they're not certain about the Big Ten enterprises? Because I'm not certain about it. That's the thing. I might agree with Michigan and USC. I might agree. That is not true, Greg. Yeah, that is absolutely true. The Big Ten was wealthy before USC came in, and they were going to be wealthy. Guys, when USC called the Big Ten, of course the Big Ten is more valuable with USC. But what were USC's options? I covered this story, guys. I covered this. I'm the one who broke it. USC's only option was to go to football independence. And that they weren't going to bring the money that Notre Dame brought in. Yikes. USC's a mega brand with a lot of money. They call the shots. Again, guys, USC did not go down the independent route because they were not going to make as much money as Notre Dame. And if they stayed in the Pac-12, they would not be making nearly as much as the Big Ten. You guys are way, again, I know a lot of this comes from having to take shots at the Big Ten constantly. I get it. I see it all the time. I think we're going through that again. I take the shots at the Big Ten, but sometimes the Big Ten is not like the entity that should be taking the shots. I know that's shocking for most of you. The phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. Call me up. Let me know how wrong I got it once again. But there is no doubt the Big Ten, was the Big Ten going to implode if they...
From
Rick?
Rick, the floor is yours. Thanks for calling, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Dellinger is the only person to have gotten input for this?
Well, Dellinger and some of ESPN, but Dellinger, yes. Dellinger has, he's got a lot of different hats He works like,
No, I understand. I know all about him.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just
No,
trying to say
he's basically the one. Yes, yeah,
this is his story.
yeah.
He was given this story on purpose. This information was leaked to him on purpose.
Yes, yep.
And why would that be done?
To try to screw it up. Yep.
And why has nothing been leaked on Big Ten Enterprises?
Well, some of it's been leaked, but not a whole heck of a lot. That's a great question. That's a great question. I don't have the answer.
What's been leaked on Big Ten Enterprises?
What's been leaked on what?
On Big Ten Enterprises. You said some of it has.
Well, some of it, it would have a CEO. UC Investment would be at least one of the 10 members. That's what we know, but very little after that. It's a for-profit entity. Go ahead.
Okay, well, yeah. I mean, I guess that would be a significant leak, that it's for-profit and not non-profit. So that's something. But the other things are just typical of any corporation. So it's really nothing. So they're hiding it. They're intentionally hiding it. The information.
The ones, okay, so I get it. The ones that are leaking the information are hiding that part of the leakage, right?
Correct.
And the people who are leaking it are probably anti the whole deal, right?
Maybe, maybe not. They may be useful idiots.
Okay, but if they're anti-deal, and and as you say, they're not leaking that part of it. Maybe that part of it is something. I mean, according to these reports, we don't know what it is, but there sure is a lot of people convinced that this is going to help the conference greatly. And that includes the big brand schools. So I don't know.
There's also great security involved by all 18 members, all of the presidents, all of the board, the 20 board members that sit with the president, all of the UC employees who are ponying up the $2.4 million. There's a lot of great secrecy there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And no doubt they're trying to get this done before any legislation is passed, because any legislation that's passed, be it SCORE Act or Slippery Act or whatever act they come up with, can't be retroactive. If this is done and voted on and approved and signed and done, it's done. It's a go.
Yeah. What do you think is going to happen tomorrow? Do you think this is just going to be a meeting in which they set up another meeting, or would you guess? I know we're all guessing here. Would you guess that this is the end?
I think USC can be convinced to do this. I think the problem is Michigan. And I think the problem with Michigan might be Big Ten Enterprises.
Yeah.
But without knowing the damn thing.
But they know it. They know it. But yeah, we don't.
They know. Every one of them knows, Greg.
Yeah, I know they know it, but we don't know it.
No, I know. But I'm saying every single one of the presidents, every single one of the board members, you have to know before you vote on it.
Yep, you're right.
You can't sign up for a $2.4 multi-billion-dollar deal without knowing all of the details.
Yep.
And they know every single detail of how Big Ten Enterprises works and doesn't work, what it can do, what it can't do. Every one of those voting people knows, and none of it's being leaked, and it's done intentionally. And I find that particularly interesting. And I find it devastating for one group of people who doesn't have an input. Who are my favorite people, Greg?
Student athletes.
The student athletes.
I know my callers.
Yes, you do. And thank you for letting me get that out.
You got it, buddy. Appreciate it. Marcus Williams, great call. By what if Michigan doesn't want UC to be the investor? It could be. But now Michigan did not want private. The lead Board of Regents guy, the 8-member Board of Regents guy, did not want there to be private equity. This is not a private equity deal. So you think they would like this USC above those other type of deals.
Call from
Christopher Hooter.
Christopher Hooter, the floor is yours. Thanks for calling, sir.
Greg, you're the man.
Yes, I am.
And you have taught me much. You've taught me much about the workings of the Big Ten.
Yes,
And the
sir.
Big Ten network, and you have filled in the gaps, and I've shared it with my buddies.
And my Golden Gopher propaganda.
In your Golden Gopher propaganda, yes, yes. And so I'm tipping my hat to you. But there's a conjunction coming here.
Yeah. Just like my wife.
Everything. What was the line on Game of Thrones? Everything before but is just,
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to give you an SEC homer's perspective on all this.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's go back. The Big Ten adds Nebraska. This is 2010, 2011.
Mm-hmm.
And they had 11 teams, and then they went to 12, right?
Nebraska was the 12th.
Okay. Yes, and then they went to divisions.
Yep.
Okay. Now, what did they call those divisions?
Leaders and legends.
Yes. Okay. So in 2011, let's go back in time. There's 5 power leagues and there's 5 G5 leagues. So there's 10 leagues. And if you were going to ask someone which conference is going to name their divisions leaders and legends, I mean, that just reeks Big Ten. And we in the SEC just rolled on the floor laughing at it. I mean, the audacity, right? I mean, talk about full of yourselves. Call yourselves leaders and legends, and everybody else is North and South and Atlantic and whatever, right? Okay, so, all right. Now, let's fast forward. 2 years later, they punted on leaders and legends, right? But, okay. All right. So that's kind of the SEC's view of the Big Ten, all right? Now, go to COVID, 2020. The Big Ten votes to cancel, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to play football, right? Right?
Yep.
I guarantee you, I promise you, they thought everyone else is going to do because we're the Big Ten.
Yep.
I promise you that's what they thought.
Yep.
100%. Everybody in that room was convinced college football is done for the season. And the ACC goes, no, buddy, we're playing. And the ACC goes, yeah, we're playing. And the Big 12 goes, yeah, we're playing. And then reality, and then a year later, Texas and Oklahoma said, we're going to the SEC.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then reality hit the Big Ten. We're not it anymore. There's a new sheriff in town, and his name is Greg Sankey. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the opportunity, now I'm going to I'm going to pat USC on the back. The opportunity to add USC and whoever they wanted to bring with them, whatever, UCLA, was huge. If you can't get Notre Dame, there's nobody on the board better than USC. So I'm very sympathetic to USC here. Without USC, the biggest, they might still be at 14 teams.
Well, first of all, Texas and Oklahoma called the SEC, right? Right?
Correct.
Texas
Correct.
and Oklahoma wanted out of the Big 12 because they saw what the future was. They knew that student athletes were going to get directly paid. They knew they needed to get to the highest stratification line possible. All that stuff. That is the same reason why USC called the Big Ten. And by the way, USC called the Big Ten alone. They didn't bring somebody that they wanted. They called alone. As we reported at the time in March and April of that spring. USC called the Big 10.
Or 12 had
Hold
all
on,
sorts of
Christopher, hold on.
Back there.
I don't have to do revisionist history on this because I'm the one who broke the story. USC called the Big Ten because they needed to get above the stratification line. They were not going to be able to compete with Michigan, Alabama, LSU. They were not going to be able to compete at the top teams of the Big Ten and the SEC if they stayed in the Pac-12. Just the same reason why Florida State and Clemson went to the courts and gambled away. They went in there to sue, to try to be able to have the opportunity to get to the SEC or the Big Ten. There is no way on God's green earth. I respect the hell out of you. I respect everybody in the chat room. There's no way in hell that the Big Ten needed USC more than USC needed the Big Ten. USC is a tremendous value add. The best add on the map, not including
Not counting Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Not counting Notre Dame.
But USC was sitting there, and that Pac-12, the next contract, as we were reporting every single day on it, was not going to be worth, it wasn't even going to be worth more than the Big 12, especially when it comes to exposure. So, no, the USC needed the Big Ten. Just like these stories are connected. Texas and Oklahoma needed the Southeastern Conference more than they needed Texas and Oklahoma, even though Texas and Oklahoma was an incredible, you can't get more of a value add than that.
Correct. Other than Texas and Notre Dame.
But they needed the SEC more. They had the Big Ten option, but they called the SEC together first. And Sankey made sure that they weren't going to go to their second option. He told them, hold on. I'm going to call the presidents immediately. And they got it done. And then they got Houston Chronicle. So I agree with a lot of what you say. And I've said this. The Big Ten has made a lot of mistakes. They've made a lot of great decisions. They don't get everything that they want. They wanted Texas. They didn't get them. They wanted Notre Dame. They didn't get them. So I agree with a lot of what you say. And I've said this since the beginning of this YouTube channel. The Southeastern Conference remains the most valuable, powerful, best football conference in the country. I've said that from day one as well.
And the Big Ten hates that. They hate it. I mean,
I'm gonna disagree. But then again, I'm gonna push back on SEC country.
Okay.
What you guys hate is the gap has definitely closed. And you know what? It's not even really the fault of the SEC. It's the nature of the beast because money is being paid above the table now. The gap has definitely closed, and the Southeastern Conference hates that. Which leads us to this. When people keep saying, why is the Big Ten going to do this and this and this and this? Why is the SEC talking to Goldman Sachs? Why? They got all the money in the world. They've got so much more money than the Big 12 and the ACC. Why are they doing all this? Because the people in Rosemont, Illinois, have their periscope out, and they've got it directed at Birmingham. And the people at Birmingham have got their periscope out, and it's being directed at Rosemont, Illinois. They don't want to lose the market. They don't want to lose any markets. They don't want to lose the market space, the battle that is going on between the two. If one goes, the other goes, the other goes, the other goes. Just like the Big 12 and the ACC. And before that, just like what Yormark did to the, partially did to the Pac-12. That's why these two are looking at that. These conferences are looking to expand and push their brand and push their value and get more and more and more and more money. They're all looking for strategic partners. The Big 12 is doing the exact same thing as Greg Sankey is. Yormark is doing everything Sankey is. Go ahead, sir.
But $1 in Oxford, Mississippi, in Tuscaloosa, in Auburn, Alabama, goes a lot further than $1 in Chicago, than $1 in Los Angeles. So right there, you're already giving up. We were talking about the Northwestern stadium expansion. Prime real estate, right?
Yeah,
it probably doubles the value.
And the Big Ten, the Big Ten also has way more sponsored sports than the SEC.
Correct. They have about 30 or so, and the SEC has about 20 or so.
Yeah. While they're doing a lot of the same things, they're two different conferences. The Big Ten is always going to have more sponsored sports. Culturally, it's more important to them. We've got hockey up here, which is everything at Minnesota. We're just different.
Absolutely.
So they're looking for. So there's a lot of that's just the way. And you're correct on that. But it also is correct, and I've been trying to explain this to Edward the Auburn Tiger and everybody else that I talk to here. That's also correct. The SEC has high viewership. They've always have, and they always will. But the Big Ten markets have more purchasing power. They always have, and they may always will. But the national advertisers love the Big Ten markets. It's why the Big Ten looks at markets. And by the way, Greg Sankey is looking at markets this time around. That's why he's eyeing Virginia, North Carolina. But anyways, Christopher Hooter, I appreciate your call, sir.
Yes, sir. I enjoyed the show, man. You're doing a great job.
You got it. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Beautiful. Christopher Hooter, LSU Tag. And I'm sure Christopher Hooter is happy with me because I took Ole Miss. No, what? No, I took Vanderbilt. Yeah, Vanderbilt. I don't know. I don't know about that game. I might have taken the wrong team. Yeah, and there's academics and everything, but the Southeastern Conference, they're making more and more money on their research, and they're using the SEC branding when it comes to their academic conventions, research stuff. They're doing what the Big Ten's doing on that.
Call from
Fred.
Fred, the floor is yours. I appreciate your phone call, sir.
Thank you, Greg. I don't understand much about equity, private or public, so I'm glad I'm not having to make a decision, but I think it's impressive that a supermajority, 16 out of 18 already know, that's the direction they want to go. So I think that's significant, and I depend on them their people to decide is it good for them or not, and then they find out if they're right.
Yeah.
I can tell you this though. I like the fact that it's passive, that it's public money. There's no notion that they're going to be someday running the Big Ten. I like that part for sure.
Yeah.
As opposed to private equity, which I was feeling very concerned about to start with. I'll tell you what, even if we could make $200 million more dollars, I don't want a super league. I'm not in favor of that one way or the other. I want the universities to be in charge. I don't want somebody in some office somewhere saying, you are lined up in Division III, and here's the teams you're going to be playing.
Yeah.
I don't like that at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Big Ten
Yep.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, sir.
But the Big Ten enterprises, I think they have some idea, but I think it's also concept. They're going to try some things, and they may eliminate some things like we did leaders and legends.
Yeah.
You know, but it's the way to go. It has the potential. When the Big Ten Network started, I thought that was a bad deal.
Everyone did. Everyone did, especially out of the Big Ten country.
Oh, yeah. The only thing I knew about was the Longhorn Network, and I kept hearing problems with that, so I figured that wasn't going to work.
Yeah. Well, the Longhorn Network did not have enough live content.
Right.
That's why when you bundle up your third-tier content together, it becomes quite valuable, and that's what Jim Delaney did.
Yeah, and so I think the Big Ten Network, at least from everything I read, is a very successful enterprise, and there isn't any reason that Big Ten enterprises couldn't be if it's done right. So I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that most people outside the Big Ten are opposed to it, I don't care one way or the other.
yeah, I know. Yeah.
I don't think we should do it because everybody's opposed to it. And I'm not concerned that everybody's opposed to it.
And Fred, here's the thing on this. Yeah, I mean, 95% of the people outside the Big Ten, they'll take whatever shots they will, and reporters and the fan bases, whatever. And what's interesting is if the Big Ten does this, Fred, well, if the SEC and the Big 12 follow up and do something like this, my question will be to the fan bases and the reporters is, why are they doing what the Big Ten's doing if this is such a bad idea? Right? Right. I don't think we're going to get an answer, though. So
I don't know that the Big 12 could do it because they have one or two schools that would like to be someplace else.
Yeah.
And I don't want to think they want to close the door on that possibility. So I don't know how they would do it. Certainly the SEC could do it.
Yeah, the SEC could do it. Yep.
As far as USC is concerned, that's for the league presidents to decide how they want to do it. Yeah. I wouldn't do it, for the very reasons you talked about. I mean, you're Johnny come lately as far as what you've given to this conference so far. Now, did USC get a full share when they came in?
Yeah, they get they're the first. Yes, they're the first Big Ten team to get fully invested member from day one.
So, I think the league showed that they recognize the value.
Oh, yeah.
But USC has to recognize, too, that they're just beginning as a partner in this. And to say we're going to prevent all these other schools from doing it unless you agree to our terms, that's not the way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite the power play, I tell you that.
Yeah. But if the league decides to do it and the other schools are okay with that, even though they don't like it, that's their business one way or the other.
Yeah.
By the way, you mentioned about people unsubscribing all the time. I don't understand why people get upset about other people disagreeing with them. That happens all the time.
Yeah, I get on people's nerves, Fred. I mean, just ask my wife, the little general. I get on people's nerves. I got a grating personality. My singing alone on this channel drives people away. But I most of these, and I'm not taking shots at these college football YouTube channels. I'm just saying it how it is. Most of these college football YouTube channels that people enjoy watching, and I'm one of those people. They either focus on one team, and so they're promoting that one team, and everyone can get together and cheer together and get depressed together. Or a lot of these channels are about a conference, so they take the conference position. Everything outside the conference is bad or whatever, but what we do in our conference is great, innovative.
I love this one podcast for the Big 12 they just keep talking about how bad the Big Ten is, and
Yeah.
it's kind of like you take the bad with the good. Okay,
Yeah.
get through this section, and then we'll move on. But
Yeah. But
But
this
the big-
channel, I've been taking, I take a lot of big shots at the Big Ten lately. Not having a requirement of 10 power conference games. I've been taking a lot of shots at the Big Ten lately. Sometimes I find myself taking big shots at Yormark just because I believe in that. I'm not anti-Big Ten. I'm not anti-Big 12. I am anti-Wisconsin. But other than that, and people get upset. So this channel, this is a national channel, which is a lot different than most YouTube channels. So we get a lot of heat here. I tell you that. I appreciate your support, though.
It's natural. We love people who agree with us.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
love people who say different things too to make us think.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a good idea. How do you read this at this point? Is SC manageable, but Michigan probably not?
Boy, I wish I had an opinion. I'm more. Now the thing is, Michigan has 8 Board of Regents members, right?
Right.
It's probably a little bit easier to move to figure out that 8 board member and satisfy them. Plus you got the Buckeyes probably leaning on them, right? You got President.
Well, I'd hope Wisconsin would be leaning on them.
Yeah,
too, since they like
Wisconsin. Yes. The USC thing, they've got 40 Board of Trustees members. 40 of them. And if 30 of them are against this thing, or 35 or whatever, and the interim president has no power, well, then the USC is going to be the one that basically,
right. And at the end of the day, that just may, end this effort because we can't get everybody on board. And,
yes.
Maybe next year we'll do it again. But at this point, if it's just a matter of, show us some love, well, maybe they can work something out. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm being too harsh on my USC Trojan brothers. That could be.
Well, I understand, before in the Pac-10 or 12 or whatever, they were really one of the big cheeses, if not the.
Yep.
And it's hard to come to a new league and not feel like you're fully appreciated. But getting a full share is pretty much appreciation as far as I'm concerned.
Yes. Yeah.
So now be just a little bit humble and say, we understand and we hope there's a process within 3-4 years. Maybe we could move to that top tier.
Yeah. Well, it's supposedly in the deal. These tiers are not permanent. And USC, USC is going to get there. And who knows, maybe they'll get there on day one. But
that would be great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for taking my call.
You got it, buddy.
Appreciate it.
Hey, call again, Fred. I appreciate the call. Beautiful.
Thank you. Take care.
Yep.
Bye.
Mireya Hernandez Garcia Flugar, the moderator, the one who rules with an iron fist, says in the comment section, I love cheese curds. So there is Mireya putting in her college football comment into the chat room. Thank you, honey. Thank you for checking in. I know we've been on the air for a long time. I do appreciate you giving us the opportunity. We're just having a discussion because tomorrow could be a very impactful day. It could be a defining moment. Tomorrow could be a defining moment. And whenever the news breaks, whether this meeting goes belly up, if this meeting leads to a vote, if this presidential meeting leads to kicking the can down the road, this meeting could really spell the end of this effort by silent Tony Petitti in trying to get a public capital investment deal in the Big Ten and the creation of the Big Ten enterprises with a uneven revenue share and extended of the grant of rights. There's a lot of things in this soup. My wife makes mole, and she puts a lot of ingredients in to make the mole. A lot of different ingredients to make the mole, and it tastes incredible. Well, this deal has a lot of ingredients in it. A lot of different ingredients, and maybe it's going to taste good. Maybe it's not going to taste good. The problem I'm having tonight is like Mireya. She can tell me every ingredient that she puts in to make the mole. But I don't know this. There is one ingredient that I have no clue what it is, and that is the Big Ten Enterprises. I understand the name of it. I understand the title of it. I kind of understand the construct of it, but I don't understand what flavor it gives the mole. I don't understand what flavor it gives to this deal. I don't have a clue. And that's why I'm having a hard time figuring out if I can support this or not. I may agree with USC in Michigan. It might be for different reasons, however. Anyways, I appreciate you guys all coming on in. We've been on the air for 2 hours and 20 minutes. I want to thank Christopher Hooter, Expedition Greg, and Go Black 45 for your generosity. Thank you so much, Christopher Hooter, Expedition Greg, and Go Black 45. Thank you, Edward Albin Tiger, Ryan Willie, Kenneth Maynard. Thanks for coming on in. Marcus Williams, everyone hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, if you haven't done it yet, please subscribe to our channel. Turn on the notifications. Buckle up. Brace for impact. Tomorrow could be a defining moment in Big Ten lore. And if this happens, what other conferences, even though this is the worst thing in the world, other conferences are probably going to follow. So until next time, from all of us at College Football's Peek Around the Corner to all of you, please, y'all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much. And as always, God, family, Golden Gopher.